Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Nascimento. You're probably thinking, if you're even watching this, if you're even listening to this, David, this is 2 weeks late. Well, guess what? I'm 2 weeks late, and the show moves, and the show goes on. So, let's start out with the first thing. I'm just glad that this isn't in the Apex. Obviously, this is 2 weeks late. Let me just get to the cards. Okay. It's 2 weeks late. There's nothing to even expand on at the moment. All right. Let's start out with the first honorable mention / injustice, and it's basically an injustice. It's a robbery. Goff versus Waters. Okay. I had this 29-28 for Goff. First round for Waters, pretty clear. Last 2 rounds for Goff. We go to the first round. We go to the very first round where Waters outstrikes Goff and he drops him. Now, I want to be clear on the outstriking part because to start off this round, Waters is outstriking Goff. Pretty clear. Goff comes back. He gets dropped, by the way, but that's not the real crux of this round. While Goff gets dropped and loses this round, okay, it's at the very end of the round. Goff gets a takedown, by the way. That's not really what matters, but he drops him at the end of the round, Waters does. And this is what, in my mind, before the drop even happens, Goff is kind of coming back in this round. He's starting to outstrike him slightly. Now, the drop by Waters helps him and wins this round for him. We go to the second round where Goff pretty much is not only outstriking Waters, he's landing heavier strikes on Waters. It's pretty evident, it's pretty clear. He outstrikes him by a large margin. I don't want to look at the strike numbers. The strike numbers are kind of all over the place because while in the first round they both landed pretty well, in the second round Goff is landing a lot more frequently than Waters. Waters is missing a lot of his shots, and Goff outstrikes him pretty he outstrikes him pretty clear. Now, I don't think he on my calculations, I put he barely outstruck Waters, but he outstruck him well enough. Okay? I don't think any of these rounds are close by any stretch of the imagination. You go to the third round where Goff outstrikes Waters by about 10 strikes on my calculation, but he outstrikes him very, very well. This round is clear for Goff, and so is round 2 in my opinion. You go to the judges' scorecards, and for some weird reason, it just doesn't look. It's just not the right scorecard. It's just not. Okay, let's go here. Saul D'Amato, he has a 30-27 for Trey Waters. This is insane. Let me pause real quick. The fact that this wasn't even a split decision really irks my soul. The fact that Goff didn't win irks my soul already, but the fact that Goff didn't even get the benefit of a split decision. There's a lot of fights where sometimes you think this is close enough to where it resembles a split decision. No, not even close. This didn't even resemble a split decision in my eyes, but it didn't even get the benefit of the doubt. Saul D'Amato, 30-27 to Waters. Absolute nonsense. Just, I don't have to reiterate the thing I just said, but nonsense. Travis Buesking. He gives the first round to Goff. Goff gets dropped at the end of the round. I don't know how we give that round to him. Nonsense. Last 2 rounds he gives to Waters. Insane. David Hoyt. All 3 rounds to Waters. It was terrible. I saw this and I thought to myself, there's no way on God's green earth that Waters won this fight. And yet he did for some reason. We move on. We go to an honorable mention now. It's Ricci versus Pennington. Quick disclaimer. Before I scored this fight, I was listening to something, and someone had said, this was a fight I couldn't avoid spoilers from, by the way. I couldn't avoid spoilers at all. I usually avoid spoilers, and by avoiding spoilers, I didn't see the, how do I put this? I didn't see the final result, but I just saw still images accidentally of who had won. So I didn't know the scorecards when I started scoring this. Someone had mentioned, hey, Pennington got robbed, so I was watching it, and I was watching it really intently, very intently. And by the end of it, I thought to myself, it's really close. You can argue it. You can really argue it to either person. So Ricci versus Pennington, 29-28 for Ricci. Close marker in the second round. You can argue the second round for either person. In the first round, Pennington outstruck Ricci, and Ricci had a takedown at the very end of the round. That takedown is irrelevant. Pennington, also known as Tisha Torres, was, or formerly known as Tisha Torres, was outstriking her well before that goofy takedown at the very end. Doesn't matter. Pennington wins the first round. Second round, close. It's close on strikes with the edge to Ricci. It's close on strikes on the feet. Ricci eventually realizes she can't strike with Pennington and clinches up. Okay, she clinches up and pretty much does a lot of her work in the clinch. And that's where she wins the round. Is just holding Ricci wins the round based off of holding Pennington in the clinch and outstriking her mostly there. But it's close on strikes. The strikes are very close. I mean, she's outstriking her in the first 4 minutes of the round. But she's not outstriking her by a lot. They separate, and Torres kind of climbs back within strikes, and it's kind of close, but the edge goes to Ricci. It's very close. You can really argue this round for either person. You go to the next round. All right. Ricci again decides we're going back into the clinch. She outstrikes Pennington. Again, most of these strikes are in the clinch for Ricci. She outstrikes Pennington by about 8 strikes, and that's where you get the decision. 29-20 at my scorecard. Ends up being a split decision, okay? Brian Paciullo, he was the first round to Pennington, correct, and the last round's for Ricci. Chris Lee, his scorecard reflects the same. And then Rob Francis gives the first round to Pennington, second round to Pennington as well. You can make an argument for it, and the last round to Ricci. Simple as that. We go to the next honorable mention. That's Hooper versus Borshchev. Awesome fight. It's so. I love. When we saw Chase Hooper come into the UFC, it was a win, and then we slowly saw that, okay, he needed a lot more improvement. And not for some weird reason, but it's just good. It's cool to see his progression. Now, is his striking still amazing? Probably not. And he'll probably still continue to work on it, and that's great. But it just shows that he's turning into like a really full, an all-around fighter, using his hands to set up takedowns. Now, in the second round, obviously all he did was just go for the takedown, which ended up being a submission win. We'll talk about that in a second. A submission win in the second round. He just went straight for the takedown. But in the first round, he set up the takedown with his hands, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Hooper versus Borshchev. First round, I gave it 10-8. And the fight ends in the second round due to Borshchev tapping, possibly, maybe he didn't. I don't think he did, but they said he did, so we'll go through it. First round, Hooper just drops Borshchev instantly. It makes no sense, but he drops him. He drops him, and then he proceeds to have 2 minutes of ground and pound and multiple submission attempts. It's a 10-8, just based off the fact it's just constant ground and pound. He drops him. Multiple submission attempts. Possible 10-8. I gave it 10-8. You go to the next, and then here's what happened. So second round comes in. Hooper goes for a takedown, gets it, going for submissions. I believe it's a Darce. He has a Darce, and I've seen. And if you remember a long time ago, I've complained about this many times. The one tap, and I always credit fighters that hold in that submission until basically the ref pulls you off. This is a case where it doesn't matter how long Hooper held it in, because the problem isn't a phantom tap. The problem I have is the actual tap. If you remember back in the Apex, Tom Aspinall versus what's his face? Tom Aspinall versus Arlovsky is the prime example. And I remember watching it live, and I saw Arlovsky just tap like a slap. And I can't remember if Aspinall just stopped or if the ref pulled him off. I'm assuming the ref pulled him off, but I remember seeing that and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that, one, because it's a goofy visual for Arlovsky. It looks like I don't want to say gave up. Yes, he gave up, but it looks like you were too cool to like double tap, and so you just one tapped out of frustration. And then also, I don't like how the ref kind of gave him that. I remember back when, I'll go back to the Arlovsky thing. I remember back when Yuri fought Glover in Singapore, and Yuri was like, "Oh, good job on taking me down," and he patted the back of Glover. And I remember Mark Goddard mentioned this later, basically saying, "Hey, you got to be careful with that." I understood what you were doing because I'm cognizant of what's going on in there, but if anyone else was in there and they maybe misinterpreted it, they could have called that a tap and the fight's over and it's a wrap and we're going home. And UFC fans they're not, I don't want to say they're not nuanced, but most MMA fans are going, "Oh, you shouldn't have tapped." They wouldn't have gone into an uproar. I would have gone into an uproar. If I had the minds of every UFC fan or every MMA fan, I would have collectively gone, "No, restart the match, do it again." That's me. But most fans are like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. You fucked up." And in this case, no one's going to care. Not that they should care, but no one's going to care for the simple fact that Hooper was dominating this fight from the first round to even the start of the second round. And I forgot when Yuri did his thing, but even if that happened, I'd have to probably look at that again, but no one would care based off of what was going on, because if I remember correctly, Yuri was down. I forgot which round I think maybe he won round 2 or round 3. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was losing, is my point. He was losing that fight. So regardless of the tap, they would have gone, "Oh, he was losing anyways." The narrative would have changed. Back to the Arlovsky thing. Arlovsky taps. He does a begrudging one tap to his chest. And in my head, I'm going, this is disgusting. Why did he do that? Why did we acquiesce to that? And I said, in the back of my head, I was like, someone's got to fix that or else we're going to get into a problem. Fast forward to this fight where Borshchev is just kind of stretching when he's being choked. And I don't think he actually taps. I think there's two angles. There's one angle where it looks like he taps, the one tap. And then there's another angle where his hand is framed kind of like his hand looks like it's curled. It doesn't look like a natural tap motion. His hand looks like it's curled. And he's like reaching on Hooper's back to kind of feel something. And the ref stops it. I don't think he tapped, but he lost regardless. So it is what it is. We go to the next honorable mention. And that's Cortes-Acosta versus Despaigne. Before this fight even started, I thought to myself, I said, what the I said, Despaigne versus Cortes-Acosta. I thought to myself, okay, either Despaigne knocks him out, even though I thought his first opponent was kind of green. Not green, but wasn't good enough. Or Cortes kind of point fights him. Well, I was wrong on both fronts, but I was more inclined on the point fighting aspect. I didn't know that Cortes was just going to wrestle him. Granted, I don't remember a time he wrestled. Obviously, in the commentary, they told us that he never had before. I think he attempted one takedown, but it wasn't really an actual takedown. In this case, Despaigne just couldn't find the target. Despaigne can't aim for shit. He's just aiming. He's just throwing shit up in the air. And so what that means is Cortes-Acosta is just going to take him down. My favorite part of this fight is the third round where Cortes-Acosta is just talking to the lady in Despaigne's corner. But while it sounds like trash talk, it's actually, he was actually being cool. That was kind of awesome. Anyways, 30-27 Cortes-Acosta. Super simple. I heard 30-26. We'll get to that in a second. What the fuck? What are we doing? Ridiculous. First round, Cortes, he got a takedown with some ground and pound for 4+ minutes and a submission attempt. Let me reiterate that this is not a 10-8 round. Okay, he gets a takedown, and for the next 2 minutes, he doesn't even start the ground and pound until like the last minute. He's just kind of holding Despaigne. Now, he's winning, but landing a little bit of ground and pound here. But it's 4 minutes of just, let me land Despaigne, and then punch him a little bit. And then the last 30 seconds, he kind of goes crazy and lands a bunch of strikes. Not a 10-8, in my opinion, at all. Second round, Cortes gets a takedown with ground and pound for 2+ minutes. This is good ground and pound. Finally, he's landing some decent ground and pound. And then in the third round, Despaigne, he outstrikes Acosta on the feet. Right, he starts landing some shots on the feet, but it's too late. He doesn't land enough to where he would win this round. In fact, he lands like a couple shots. Cortes finally gets a takedown with very good ground and pound for 2+ minutes, and that's the end of it. You go to the judges' scorecards. All right, Chris Lee, and this is where the 10-8 comes in. I thought this 10-8, the most likely case for a 10, this is ridiculous. I think he just accidentally wrote this. There's no possible way this is a 10-8. This is a mishap. 30-26. This makes no sense. I'm hurt. The most likely round for a 10-8 is round 1. No other round you can argue a 10-8. The most likely 10-8 is round 1. And so Chris Lee gives the first 2 rounds a 10-9. Third round a 10-8. I don't know how you see that. Despaigne was getting battered on the feet for the first 2 minutes. Ridiculous. Honorable mention of Chris Lee. Disgusting. And then the next 2 judges, David Hoyt and Travis Buchanan, have a 30-27 for Costa. Boom. There you have it. Next honorable mention, it's Buckley versus Ruziboev. I'm rooting for Buckley actively. Right, but I thought Ruziboev was actually going to win this fight. It just goes to show there's a couple fighters that are frauds. It's just as simple as that. And forget about Despaigne being a fraud. Despaign's relatively new, I believe. Frauds. The guy that I forgot his name. I can't think of his name right now. But the guy that fought Strickland in the Apex, the German guy who's actually Dagestani, I believe, or whatever, Magomed or whatever his name is. He was a fraud via cardio. Rebecki on this card versus Ferreira. He was a fraud. Cardio. Who knew? We saw those first round finishes, and it never crossed my mind of, hey, we haven't seen him fight long. Got it. Cardio. And then Buckley versus Ruziboev. Ruziboev didn't have a cardio problem. I don't even know how to analyze this, because in my head, while I want to call him a fraud, he fought well at 185, but the better weight class for him would be 170. Well, guess what? He comes down to 170. He looks insane. He looks like a Laffy Taffy. Like if you pulled out a Laffy Taffy and then stretched it, that's what he looked like. And he proceeds to Buckley's right. He just didn't fight well, right? I had this 30-27 for Buckley. In the first round, Buckley had 2 takedowns with some ground and pound. Ruziboev outstruck Buckley on the feet. Very few strikes, not enough to change the outcome of this round. Buckley had a takedown at the start. Not much ground and pound. In fact, no ground and pound, actually. Second takedown, he had some ground and pound, but it's enough ground and pound to deter anything that Ruziboev did on the feet. That round belongs to Buckley. Second round, it's close on the feet. Okay, they're both kind of landing on the feet. Close on strikes. But Buckley had 2 takedowns with some very good ground and pound. That's his round. Third round, Ruziboev had a reversal, but Buckley had a takedown and a reversal and a lot of ground and pound. I mean, you could argue a possible 10-8 here. I didn't give one, but it's a possible 10-8. The amount of ground and pound he landed, Buckley was in control. You go to the judges' scorecards. It made me mad when I heard it. I heard Henry Guri had a 30-27 for Buckley. Chris Lee had a 30-26. Finally, a good 30-26 from Chris Lee. gives the last round a 10-8. I didn't, but I could see that. And then Saul D'Amato wanted to be cute and gives the last round a 20. Gives this fight a 29-27. Gives the last round a 10-8. That's fine. And then gives the first round to Ruziboev. He thinks that Ruziboev did enough on the feet, which he didn't at all in this first round, and that Buckley's 2 takedowns with the ground and pound wasn't effective enough. Nonsense. Honorable mention to Saul D'Amato. That's stupid and fucking ridiculous. We go to the next honorable mention, and it's Lewis versus Nascimento. I give the first round to Nascimento, second round to Lewis, third round ends in a TKO win for Lewis. I didn't know where this fight was going. Disclaimer, this fight was also spoiled for me. But watching it and trying to eliminate what I had saw previous, I was thinking to myself, where was this fight headed if he didn't knock out Nascimento? Well, we're going to look at the scorecards. You go to the judges' scorecard. Before the judges' scorecards, the first round, Lewis had a takedown, and he had a reversal. But here's the problem: Nascimento had a takedown with ground and pound for about a minute plus, and this was good ground and pound. This was enough to win Nascimento the round. You go to the next round. Lewis outstruck Nascimento on the feet, well on the feet. Nascimento got a takedown with some ground and pound for 30 seconds, like literally 30 seconds. Lewis controlled every bit of this round up until the last 30 seconds. This round belongs to Lewis. I was surprised looking at these scorecards. And then the third round is a TKO win for Lewis. You go to the judges' scorecards. Chris Lee, his scorecard reflects mine, rightly so. Brian Puculio, his scorecard reflects mine. And then Saul D'Amato, again, just a terrible scorecard. Honorable mention to Saul D'Amato, just a terrible scorecard. He has the first round for Nascimento and the second round for Nascimento. What are you looking at? 30 seconds of some ground and pound versus Nascimento getting outstruck on the feet for 4 minutes. Cool beans, guys. That's pretty much it. Hopefully I'm back soon enough to finish the card I just missed, and we'll be right back. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.